If rituals help you, if eulogies help you, if chanting and family traditions help you, then let them help you. But what if they don't help you? Hi, it's Margaret Maloney, and welcome to Season 3 of the Death Dhamma Podcast. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so appreciative that you are part of my community. And yet, I seek not to be attached to the idea of the podcast or even to the idea of our community. And that's our topic this season: attachment, clinging, and aversion. What happens when we really want something? What happens when we really don't want something? And what does it do to our suffering and dissatisfaction? Let's dive in and find out a little bit more with today's episode. When my mother died, I worked with her church and her community to make sure she had the funeral that she would have wanted. When my husband died, I resisted all of the pleading and orders given to me by others and honored his request for no service. At this time, both decisions seemed right. But were they? Hi, everyone. This is a short reflection today, and I hope that you find it useful. In the previous episode of the Death Dhamma Podcast, the one called Considering Buddhist Funeral Traditions, The Importance of Rituals in the Grief Journey, I read this passage from the Kasala Sutta. Where and however an aim is accomplished through eulogies, chants, good sayings, donations, and family customs, follow them diligently there and that way. And after considering different approaches to funerals for Buddhists, I said, why do this for someone who is gone? And also acknowledge that often our rituals are about taking care of the living. It might not be helping you, but it could be easing the way for the grief journey of others around you. And this has led me to reflect on the two different ways that we handled my mother's death versus how I handled my husband's death. My mom left complete instructions on what to do, who to call, who to have say prayers, who to have sing, what songs, that she wanted cheesecake at the reception afterwards, and I think someone else's croissant sandwiches. So I never had to wonder about anything. Just execute the plan, and that felt right. Nobody complained about it, at least not to my face. For my husband, Ed, I also had instructions. A simple cremation and scattering of his ashes at sea. No funeral, no memorial. His feeling was that the people who cared about him had been part of his life, and it was not his job now that he was dead to have a service to make others feel better. Also, he knew that it would be a strain on me, so that was clear. And I followed his instructions. Were people unhappy? Oh yes, I know they were, because a couple of them approached me after his death and made comments like, okay, you know that whole no funeral thing? You're going to ignore that, right? To their dismay, my reply was, no, I'm not going to ignore that. I'm following his wishes. Reviewing a recent discussion in episode 24, Transformative Grief, Following the Spiritual Path with Tracy Dunblazer, we discussed how we make grief about us. We make the death of others about us. The positive part is that grief is the way in which we awaken ourselves to witness transition. Our grief for someone who has died is about our transition in acknowledging that they are gone, and also the fact that our life has changed. When something changes and we move forward with those changes, we are empowered because we are choosing a new way. Even if it's letting go of, something like childhood trauma or creating a new lifestyle or grieving the loss of someone you've loved, you can own this and create something new. In fact, you want to own this and actively create your new way of moving forward in this world. Now, coming back to the different types of funerals, part of the ritual is about helping the departed move on to the most positive rebirth. And it's a milestone on our grief journey. Whether you recognize a 49-day bardo or have chanting ceremonies at defined intervals. So I wondered, in not having a funeral for Ed, did I deny someone the opportunity to move forward? Who is that ceremony for? When there's a conflict in wishes, who makes the call? I found out later that a close friend just could not accept the lack of a service for Ed, and so this friend held his own private service, which as far as I know was for himself and possibly his wife. Initially, this annoyed me, but when I think about it now, I feel differently. He did what he needed to do to attend to his own grief. I respect that. Ultimately, we are each responsible for our own journey and progress on the path. That might seem like selfishness, but it's not. If you are able to make the choices that create a stronger being, you will be able to help others. Because remember, you cannot give what you do not have.
I would love to hear from you, your thoughts, your suggestions, your own stories about attachment. So follow this link, I'm going to read it to you in a minute here, to leave me a 90-second message with your ideas and suggestions. You can go to https://www.speakpipe.com/death_Dhamma_podcast. I suppose you could also just use your favorite search engine to say SpeakPipe Death Dhamma Podcast. And there you can record an audio message for me. And be sure to come over to margaretmaloney.com. That's MargaretMeloni.com and join the community.
You've been listening to the Death Dhamma Podcast with your host, Margaret Maloney. Thank you so much for being here. Come find me on margaretmaloney.com, margaretmeloni.com. And until we meet again, may you be well, may you be happy, may you be at ease, and may you be free from suffering. Bye for now.